Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel, Indo-Pakistani War. The Indo-Pakistani War of 1965 was a brief but intense conflict between India and Pakistan, primarily over Kashmir. Pakistan launched Operation Gibraltar, sending troops into Indian-administered Kashmir to spark a local uprising. India responded with a full-scale counteroffensive, leading to fierce battles across the Western Front, including the largest tank battle since World War II in Punjab. Both countries claimed victory. Pakistan argued it defended its territory and raised global awareness of Kashmir, while India held its ground, repelled the infiltration, and captured key strategic areas. After 17 days of combat and thousands of casualties, a UN-mandated ceasefire took effect on September 22. The Tashkent Agreement, signed in January 1966, restored pre-war borders. Though the war ended in a stalemate militarily, each side viewed it as a political win, cementing national narratives and escalating the long-standing rivalry that still defines the region today. Polish-Lithuanian War. The Polish-Lithuanian War of 1920 was a short but tense conflict over control of the city of Vilnius, following World War I and the collapse of empires in Eastern Europe. Both newly re-established nations, Poland and Lithuania, claimed Vilnius as their own, sparking a territorial dispute. During the larger Polish-Soviet War, Poland briefly lost Vilnius to Soviet forces. But in October 1920, Polish General Jan Zeligowski, with covert support from the Polish government, staged a fake mutiny and seized the city in what became known as Zeligowski's Mutiny. He then proclaimed the short-lived Republic of Central Lithuania, which was later annexed by Poland in 1922. Poland considered it a strategic victory, gaining Vilnius and securing its eastern border. Lithuania, though defeated militarily, never recognized the loss and continued to claim Vilnius as its capital. Though small in scale, the war shaped national identities, and its unresolved tensions echoed for decades in Polish-Lithuanian relations. Italo-Turkish War. The Italo-Turkish War of 1911 to 1912 was Italy's first major colonial conflict, and a defining moment in its rise as an imperial power. Italy invaded Ottoman-controlled Libya, seeking to expand its empire in North Africa, while the weakening Ottoman Empire struggled to defend its distant provinces. Italy quickly seized key coastal cities like Tripoli and Benghazi, using its modern navy and even pioneering the first military use of airplanes for reconnaissance and bombing. However, inland resistance by Ottoman troops and local tribes made full control difficult. Despite that, the war ended in 1912 with the Treaty of Auchi, in which the Ottoman Empire ceded Tripolitania, Fezzan, and Cyrenaica, modern-day Libya, to Italy. It was a clear colonial win for Italy, marking its emergence as a serious player in Africa. Though costly and met with resistance, Italy achieved its territorial goals, while the Ottoman Empire suffered yet another blow in its decline. Philippine-American War. The Philippine-American War began in 1899, shortly after the U.S. defeated Spain in the Spanish-American War. While Filipinos expected independence, the Treaty of Paris handed control of the Philippines to the United States, sparking a brutal and unexpected conflict. Led by Emilio Aguinaldo, Filipino revolutionaries fought a determined guerrilla war against U.S. forces. What began as conventional battles quickly turned into a bloody insurgency, with atrocities and civilians suffering on both sides. After years of fighting, Aguinaldo was captured in 1901, and by 1902, the U.S. declared the war officially over. The result? An American victory. The Philippines became a U.S. colony, marking a major expansion of American influence in the Pacific. While the U.S. claimed success, the war ignited debates at home about imperialism and cost over 200,000 Filipino lives, making it one of the most controversial conflicts in early American foreign policy. Winter War. The Winter War began in 1939 when the Soviet Union invaded Finland, demanding territory for security near Leningrad. Despite being vastly outnumbered and outgunned, Finland mounted a fierce resistance in brutal winter conditions. Finnish troops, using guerrilla tactics and their deep knowledge of the terrain, stalled the Soviet advance. The world watched in awe as tiny Finland held off one of the largest armies in the world for months, inflicting heavy losses. After 105 days of intense fighting, the Moscow Peace Treaty was signed in March 1940. Finland ceded about 9% of its territory, but retained independence, which was the ultimate goal. While the Soviet Union claimed a strategic victory, Finland emerged with its sovereignty intact and global respect for its defiance, making it a moral and symbolic win in the eyes of many. Black September. In September 1970, Jordan faced a violent internal uprising by the PLO, but the crisis took a sharp turn when Syria entered the war. Backed by Soviet equipment, Syrian tanks crossed into northern Jordan, aiming to support the Palestinian fighters against King Hussein's regime. The Syrians hoped to topple the monarchy and establish a pro-Palestinian government. Jordan's army, though smaller, fought back fiercely. Crucially, the U.S. and Israel signaled readiness to intervene if needed. Under intense pressure and facing potential Israeli airstrikes, Syria quickly realized it had overstepped. Within days, Syrian forces withdrew in disarray. Jordan had not only crushed the PLO's revolt but also repelled Syrian intervention. This marked a rare moment when Jordan stood alone militarily and came out on top, defending its sovereignty and securing a clear victory against a regional power. Eritrean-Ethiopian War. The Eritrean-Ethiopian War from 1998 to 2000 was one of Africa's deadliest modern conflicts, fought over a seemingly minor border town Badme. But beneath the surface were deep-rooted tensions after Eritrea's independence from Ethiopia in 1993. Both nations, once allies against a common enemy, quickly turned into bitter foes. The war escalated into full-scale trench warfare with tanks, artillery, and airstrikes. Tens of thousands were killed in brutal battles that resembled World War I. In mid-2000, Ethiopia launched a massive offensive, pushing deep into Eritrean territory and recapturing disputed areas. Eritrea was forced to agree to a ceasefire. Technically, Ethiopia had won on the battlefield. However, an international court later awarded the town of Badme to Eritrea. Still, from a military standpoint, Ethiopia achieved its objectives and emerged victorious in the war. Rif War. From 1921 to 1926, Spain fought a fierce war in northern Morocco, known as the Rif War, against Berber tribes led by Abd el-Krim. The conflict began when Spanish forces tried to expand deeper into the mountainous Rif region, but met unexpected resistance. In 1921, at the Battle of Annual, Moroccan fighters crushed a major Spanish force, killing over 8,000 troops. It was one of the worst defeats for a colonial power in Africa at the time. Spain regrouped, and by 1925, called in help from France. Together, they launched a massive counteroffensive, using over 500,000 troops, tanks, aircraft, and even chemical weapons. By 1926, the rebellion was crushed and Abd el-Krim surrendered. Despite the loss, Morocco, still under colonial rule, had dealt Spain one of its most humiliating defeats, a symbolic victory for future independence. Saudi-Yemeni War. In 1934, Saudi Arabia and the Kingdom of Yemen went to war over control of border regions like Assur, Jizan, and Najran. The newly formed Saudi state under Ibn Saud sought to consolidate territory and secure its southern frontier. Tensions escalated when Yemeni forces invaded the disputed areas. In response, Saudi Arabia launched a swift counteroffensive. With better organization and superior firepower, Saudi forces pushed deep into Yemeni territory, even threatening the capital, Sana'a. Facing defeat, Yemen agreed to a peace treaty, the Treaty of Taif, in June 1934. Saudi Arabia retained control of Assur, Jizan, and Najran, solidifying its southern border. The war lasted just a few months, but it was a decisive Saudi victory, marking the young kingdom's emergence as a regional power and securing lands it still holds today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.